this important conference, and I really appreciate and acknowledge the LIS Academy for organizing this. To Dr. Sri Kumar, who is the conference director, I thank him, and the chair of this session, Dr. Jagdish Arora, for giving me an opportunity to be here. Well, friends, I'm going to talk about something which is very core these days, that is world of open data. And how does library ecosystem respond to this? Now, data, as you know, is an essential resource that powers the information economy, just the way the oil has powered the industrial economy. And it's cumulative resource. It's not just abundant. Every day we are coming across huge colossal data. And that's why I named it as data tsunami. And if you just have a look at this visual, you'll find that 1.7 MB of data is created every second by each person during 2020. And if you just look at by the end of 2020, we'll have 44 zettabytes of data that will, gulf the entire digital universe. Similarly, we say that we have 2.5 quintillion bytes, where 1 quintil is equal to 1 exabyte, that is 10 raised to power 18 bytes. That's the kind of data that we are talking about. Now, this data that we get is actually raw. Unless it is interpreted in a correct way, it doesn't make any sense. For instance, if you just look at the raw data, it could be boring. Sometimes when you say it's 2, 4, it doesn't make any sense to you. What does that number stand for? Whether it's age, it is the class, it's the unit, whatever it is. And this raw data is also complex because you can't make any sense out of it. It prompts, therefore, no action. And at times, many times, it's forgotten. So when you interpret this data in a very, very methodical way, you can draw inferences, you can facilitate understanding using structured format, you can enhance retention, you can prompt an action based on the interpreted data, and it leaves some impression. Now, I will talk about towards the end of this about correct interpretation of the data and how it helps us. Now, when you are interpreting data, you can only take action if you know the purpose, why you are doing this, the event, and the outcome of that event, then you can take the appropriate action. That's what the data interpretation does to raw data. Now, these data sources, as many of my library professionals are aware, it comes from various sources. It could be the traditional sources that we know of, thin files, or it could be thick files that we call as the big data. Now, this big data could also be mobile phone data, it could be behavioral data, it could be partnership data, it could be government data, it could be baseline credit data, bank statements, proof of residence, things like that, lots of data. And there is another kind of data that we particularly would like to think about and talk about is the library transactions data. Now, I just wanted to give you this example because this was very, interesting. Only last week, I must have put my location on the Google and that it's traced my history. It says that, if you just look at this visual, which is here, it just says nothing. There's bunch of stones, they're packed together. And it says it's Kilarai Pithoraga, and then it talks about, it gives a map here, but it doesn't make any sense till the Google Analytics has played a part, and it says that I have traveled 19% around the world this year, and I have traveled over 7,704 kilometers so far in 2020. Now, this is because, and look at this, how many countries, how many cities, how many places. So all this data, this is what data interpretation is called as. So there was raw data, there was some images, it doesn't make any difference. But when the analytics has interpreted this data, it has given my actually travel, timeline updates about what places I traveled, where I traveled, how much I traveled, with what countries I traveled, and things like that. It was just an example to show you this common example. Now, data interpretation could take place at different levels based on social profiling, based on financial profiling, based on behavioral analysis, based on location-based profiling. And let me tell you, share my friends with you, that it is most of this is based on the call data records. records. The behavior is studied through call data records and things like that in many of the government cases. Now, I will give you, if you just look at social profiling, it's calls and content, social media data, web browsing, financial profiling could be SMS, transactional information, SMS data used. Behavioral could be signals based on filing forms, whether you are doing attempting multiple times or single time. Judge character, truthfulness. Location could be that where you are going, using your mobile phone data and things like that. Now, I'm going to give you two kind of use cases. One, of course, is for the library. The other I'm going to give from another domain, because which is actually a true story, and a very, very common story that you can correlate that how this data, raw data, when interpreted correctly or not correctly, what it can lead to. Now, I'm giving you some case from the data in the governance in India. There's a case study. There are a number of case studies that we have been using to share with during our training programs. It is predictive policing, unique identity project, big data and credit, smart meters and intelligence system. But here I'm going to give you the story of big data in credit scoring. Now, the instance one, if you just take hypothetically what is being promised by the fintech firms. There is a gentleman called Ram, and it's Ram. I have changed the name just for the security, concealing the identity of the person, but it's a true story. There's a person, Ram, and he works at a general provision store. He doesn't have credit opportunities because he's not the part of the credit ecosystem, as he works in the unorganized sector. But firms can provide small credit based on big data analysis. So this gentleman has to build a credit history, right? For entrepreneurial purposes, it could be for his family, children education or housing or etc. He needs a credit through fintech firms. Now, when he builds a credit history, when he begins to build a credit history, how this credit history begins using the big data credit scoring, So he has an opportunity by building this credit history. He has an opportunity to get the credit. Now, what happens in reality, instance two? They are using his call data. When he's applying, they are using his CDR records, call data records. What happens in reality? Just watch here. The transactions first. A fintech small lending firm may analyze big data based on his recent bank account transactions. It could be his address, it could be his IDs, it could be his other transitional forms of data or alternate data like mobile data. Now, they also do location data profiling, which is to see the pattern of the movement of the gentleman and get an idea of his routine of the person. This actually gives them an idea about whether the person has been consistently employed in the past, how regular he is at his job, whether he has a regular routine. The third is the SMS data. This data actually gives the fintech agencies an idea of purchasing habits, which could also speak of his creditworthiness. And call records and contacts are used to create his social profile. Now, the technological irony here is that Ram gave his old cell phone to one of his family members, and they started using this. But Ram was using this mobile for almost 6 to 8 months, and he purchased another mobile and used some other SIM. Now, paradoxical puzzle here is that when Ram's family began using his phone and SIM, their location data, their purchasing habits, it gave a completely different picture. So Ram has been doing alternate jobs during odd hours, and he has been doing even extra night shifts at some other places once in a week. And what did the fintech firm, after studying the credit history, after studying the call data records history of this gentleman, decided that this person's routines are variable. So he is not a genuine person. He is not credit-worthy person. Therefore, there will be no credit for Ram. So what is the anomaly here is that the data was either not interpreted well, or the data sources that led to this interpretation were wrongly chosen. That's why I said the interpretation is very, very important to arrive at conclusions that can actually facilitate conscious evidence-based matrix for the policy formulation. Now, how coming to the library information centers, it is very, very important. We have, in libraries, we have separate ingredients when we build libraries and create a structure, for collection development, for training, for creating, taking special initiatives, rather and helping the community that we serve. So if we have to see ourselves as a social agents of social change, we have to factor several strategies to create new and fresh avenues for our users to make ourselves sustainable in this highly, changing environment. Now, I'm going to give you two examples that are very, very relevant to strategize the services or resources in the library. One of them is exclusively from my own institution, which we are actually, I'll share with you. The first is the circular economy. What is the circular economy? Actually, for the library purposes, this is relevant when we treat this as circular resources. This circular economy is something, is a system which is aimed at eliminating waste and continual use of resources, okay, which is regenerative by design, retaining as much value as possible from products, parts, and materials. And I'll just tell you how. How can you make a case for circular resources? There are 3 R's in this. One is reduce. It says reduce is minimum use of raw materials. Friends, when we correlate this to the library environment, we appreciate, the consortium-based licensing of the resources, that we should not spend money on the same products which can be pooled. 2, reuse, recycle, and reuse. Reuse of products and components. For instance, we are promoting open access environment. Why? What is created by one agency or one institution or one individual should be covered under Creative Commons license or open licenses, so that the end user at any place, any point of time, can use it, and these resources be put in the public domain. That's why reuse has correlation for the library. The third is recycling. Recycling is connected with the data, open data, raw data. When we put this open data, when we create avenues in our organizations, in our libraries, to help the researchers or the scholarly community to manage their data, so that this data could be used without reinventing the wheel. This data could be used by other scholar and who can create a different derivatives out of it. So you are not reinventing the wheel. You are not wasting the time to create the similar data sets. These data sets are available. You can invest the time on the actual research. The other next scholar can use this data and create a different set of derivatives. That's what we call recycling. So these 3 R's are very, very important. And many of the libraries around the world are actually following these 3 R's of the circular resources. Now, the second component is using data pipeline concepts. What is this data pipelines is? When you are transporting the raw data from different platforms and databases to sources, data warehouses, where it is being analyzed for the final, right? Now, I'll just give you some example here now and show you this pipeline. Now, when the data is being pumped from the data sources, it is being ingested in batch mode or streaming ingestion is being done. Then it is being transformed, and it reaches its destination, which is called the data warehouse, where either the analytics takes place there, but it is monitored for drawing inferences. And when we talk of these inferences, this inferences does not just give the insights these inferences have the power to change the power structures as well. That's the kind of inferences I am talking about. Now, once data is sent to the destination, the structurally you may have to make some changes here. Now, I'll just give you an example of which is not a very advanced level of example of the data pipeline, nor it is a very basic one. It is in between the two. It is not basic, neither basic nor advanced, but it's in between the two. But I thought it will make sense to my professional community to share. Now, just look at this, from basic to advanced library applications where you create matrix from the data. Now, for making conscious decisions using evidence-based metrics. Now, in the basic, all of us are associated, those who work in the libraries are associated with collection development, weeding out, and creating, sustainability of the library services based on the data usage. For instance, use of library resources, sustaining funding that comes for collection development of that services, augmentation of the technical resources, executing new projects, factoring new service that are resource-based, resource-intensive, and membership-based as well. That is the case in my organization for whom I work. Now, when we talk of the advanced is the data pipeline where the data is generated from different sources, not only from the library, but from other sources. There are other initiating points from where the data is generated, and then it goes through the pipeline to the destination. In our case, the destination is the accounts, the financial, where financial transactions happen and where it is being monitored and we are being fed. There are two options here. One option is export, transform, and load. The other example is export, load, and transform. What we do is we export, load, and the transformation takes place at the warehouse level. So I'm going to talk about both these, how libraries could implement this and what can libraries get out of it. Now, this is one statistics. I think it looks like Greek and Latin, but what this statistics is, this is an analysis of the usage of our library materials, subject-wise analysis, where we have divided the subject into 31 categories, and these numbers are the actual number of times they've been used, and this is the percentage of use of each subject domain. Now, what does this say? If you have seen this, what does this visual say when I'm saying 80 to 85%? This says library is relevant. Why? Because our 80 to 85% of collection is in circulation. And this is excellent, taking cognizance of any international yardstick. 80 to 85% of our collection is in active circulation. So library is relevant. What does it further say? Library is also useful, that the collection that we build is highly relevant to our user community, because that's why they are borrowing 80 to 85% of the collection. Okay. Besides this, how does this help us? It helps us, besides the collection development, it also says here, reserve title. We have a policy of only buying a single copy of each title because of the paucity shortage of the space crunch in our organization. But if a title has X number of reservations at a given point of time, the policy that we have created is buy another copy. Do not starve the user for want of this title, because otherwise he will not or she will not get access to this book for months together. We issue for 15 days. So if there are 10 users, look at the time that he or she has to wait. So our policy it helps us in buying one more. The facilities to buy one more edition copy of this. Now this also helps us, in saying which are the frequently used titles, what is being read by our users, which subjects are in demand, which resources are not being used for X number of years. Say, for instance, this February, we completed our weed out, and this weed out was based on the analysis of this statistics that a given book has not been used by any member for the past 5 years or 10 years or 12 years. Therefore, we need to take it out. So there were the subject domains experts who actually did the weeding out, he helped us in weeding out. So this statistics was fed to them and they could take a conscious decision. And when I say use the word conscious decision based on this evidence, I say that there wasn't any opposition from any of the members who came to know about this weed out, how we have done this. It was appreciated by everyone. Now, same is true for our other services. This is one. Now, coming to the pipeline, the advanced pipeline. See, this is work in progress. So therefore, I'm not showing you the bigger screens. These modules are, you can say this is for library. We feed the data. That data is structured, unstructured, semi-structured in this. And when it goes, it's got different contours here, and it is processed when it goes from us, and it is received before it reaches the destination, that is the data warehouse. There is some formatting done in the structures. That's how these screenshots are there. And it is actually for those services where financial transactions are happening. And it goes to the finance department, and this, based on this data, which is being analyzed eventually, taking cognizance of the data from all the departments that is being come through this pipeline, we can generate. It is facilitating us to generate new services, execute special projects. For instance, recently through this statistics, we could show to our management that this X activity is very, very important to be initiated and executed. But we didn't have money, lot of money. So that was very, very, financial resource intensive. So the management did approve, yes, based on the statistics, which they validated and verified couple of times. They approved the project based on the data that was generated out of this, where the evidence that was generated out of this, they approved. And today we are running that project. Of course, due to the COVID, it got halted for some time, but again, it has been restarted. And we got a lot of funding. When we showed this to the agencies who could fund us under their CSR, funding sources. So we got the corporate funds under corporate social responsibility from one of the leading agencies, and we are running this project. So friends, this data is very, very important. That's how, so even a smaller job like, we facilitate researcher cubicles, how those cubicles, how that you can make that transparent, what is the money, whether it has reached or not reached, even for the photocopy, even for scanning, even for creating, visualization or infographics. So there are, set procedures, but this, we are actually feeding the structured, semi-structured or unstructured data into these pipelines, and then it gets, kind of processed at the end. And then we get the MIS reports. Based on those MIS reports, the decisions are being taken. This is still work in progress. Therefore, I'm not going to elaborate on this. But this, I say, friends, that it's very, very important that you take cognizance of the data. Whatever you can, evidences you can generate based on the data with correct interpretations, it is going to help you. It's going to sustain our activities. It's going to sustain our projects. It's going to sustain, build a sustainable future for the libraries, because every time you are asked, what is the role of libraries in this digital environment? I think through this statistics, at least I'm not now asked in my present organization this, because the numbers speak, the metrics speak. So it's not concocted. It is actually the true evidence-based metrics. But this, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity. Thank you very much.